Welcome to the Parenting with Confidence podcast. I am your host, Teresa Alexander Inman, board certified behavior analyst and infant toddler developmental specialist. So today I am absolutely honored to have as my guest Dr. Foojan Zeine. She is a psychotherapist, radio podcast host, international speaker, and author. She has her doctorate in clinical psychology and is a licensed marriage and family therapist, practicing in her office and online and in her office in Southern California. Dr. Zane, the originator of awareness integration, which is what we're going to talk about today, people. Education and psychological theory and intervention, and the author of 6 books, including Life Reset, The Awareness Integration Path to Create the Life That You Want. She has authored and co-authored 5 books and is the host of a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan Zane. Sorry, my mouth just ABC on KMET 1490 AM ABC radio. She appeared on Dr. Phil and is a great speaker in universities, including Harvard. Welcome, Dr. Zane.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be with you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And before we go any farther, you have another book, which we're not going to really talk about today, but I think this book will be helpful for parents. And you said it is called?
Intentional Parenting, and it is the practical guide to awareness integration theory.
Wonderful. Okay, so today we're going to talk about integrational theory, and then that book actually marries the two.
Yes, the awareness integration theory it's a theory that can be adapted to a therapeutic and psychological aspect. It's also adapted to educational aspect, and now we adapt it to parenting. I'm a therapist, I'm a coach, and so I've done this theory. I brought it into psychotherapy and working with deep aspects of people. And then we adapted it to life coaching, which not only brings the awareness, but also goal setting and moving forward and trying to kind of like create fulfillment in life. Then we brought it into early development, and Dr. Manoukian, who is the co-author of this, she took the awareness integration and we brought it into early development. So she made the first daycare, actually, which we're bringing this concept as early as infancy until 6th grade. And then we're trying to take this into schools and teach the teachers in how to come in from that angle and from that theory, and how to create emotional regulation at school and how to work with kids in there. And then also trying to teach parents and how to come from that theoretical perspective of communicating with their children as and allowing them and teaching them to distinguish between thought process, emotional process, behavior, the impact of their attitude, and kind of, building responsible and accountable citizens kind of together.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness, I need that book. Anything that will help me work better with families, I absolutely would. I enjoy learning. So that would be.
This book, what we've done, actually, it appears more like it's a kind of a learning in a textbook. It does start with theoretical perspective, like developmental theories that are out there, attachment theories, and then also the awareness integration theory. And then we take chapters, like one is for infancy, and then toddler, and then preschool, and then school age, and then preteen and teen, and kind of young adult. So we take each chapter and really look at not only the motor development and cognitive and emotional development of the children at that age, which is normal, and then also some of the issues that whether parents deal with or the children deal with, which are appropriate to that age. And then we give kind of guidance from the awareness integration theory for the parents or the teachers in how to be with that school age or with that age bracket and whatever is needed for that bracket. Like the way we talk to teenagers are very different than the way we talk to a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old. Sometimes parents deal with them exactly the same, like the same discipline that they did, the same way, up to down that they talk to when, they're talking to 2-year-old or 5-year-old. They're continuing when the child becomes a teenager and they're rebelling and they're being rude and, they just say, I'm going to do whatever I want. So is letting parents know that we got to shift as the same way their age is shifting. We have to shift in the way that we are dealing with them.
Absolutely. As a child grows, we have to grow as well, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
So I want to ask you, what are some of the principles of awareness integration therapy?
We have 9 principles. A basic aspect of the awareness integration is that every human being has the capacity to learn and create an amazing life for themselves, regardless of circumstances, right? So it's not like if we have this plush, wonderful life, then we get to be fulfilled. And if we don't, then we're going to be miserable. The point is, how can I be with the world as is and still create a fulfillment for myself? And there are a couple of components that we look at, which, everybody who's listening and viewing us, they know that their body works, like their heart works a particular way. Simultaneously, their lungs work a particular way. Their muscles work a particular way. And as they're living, all of these are working simultaneously. Well, if you look at the brain process, your thought process, your emotional process, and your behavior, they're all linked and they're working simultaneously, right? And when the 3 of them are working together, they're creating a result out there. So the awareness, which is something that we could do as human beings, which most animals really don't have that kind of an awareness reflection upon themselves. We don't learn that from, kind of growing up. We always are learning about how to look outside, but not really inside. So it's allowing for us to really distinguish between what is the thought process, how do I think, how do I relate to the world, what are my belief processes, what is it that I kind of the narrative and storyline that I consistently create about myself and the world, what are my feelings, which I experience them in my body. Are they, the original feelings that show up just telling me a message about how to protect myself or my needs, or are they secondary emotions that are related to some of my thoughts? As my thoughts change, my feelings are changing also. And how do I behave? How do I, my body language, my tonality, the words I use, the actions, and how does my thinking, feeling, and acting actually impact my life? How do I create results? How do I relate to people? And then we also live in assumptions. So obviously, every one of us has lives consistently in assumptions. So also being aware of what my assumptions are. What do I think people think of me and feel about me? How do I assume based on my observation of what they do? And really capturing the impact of my assumptions as I live with my assumptions. And then also, how do I think of myself since I take myself everywhere?
Right.
My self-esteem, and how do I think of me? How do I feel about me? What do I do to myself? Do I scold myself? Do I punish myself? Am I nice to myself, when things happen? And what are the effects of that? What are the impacts as I am with me going around the world in relationships? And one of the things we do in the awareness integration theory is we take these openings and awarenesses in every single area of life, like your relationship with people, acquaintances, school, work, relationship with your parents, your siblings, relationship with your mate, with money, with sexuality, with spirituality, with God, with nature, all of that. You take every single relationship that we're in, and we play these roles at, and we kind of look at these different aspects of the thought process and how we relate to, and the emotional and behaviors. And then in this series, Teresa, what we find is some of the negative core beliefs that are consistently an obstacle for us. And then in one process, we take those, we go to the past, clean it up, reintegrate ourselves, all of the little inner children that we've left everywhere, or if they were abused, if they were harm, anything that was kind of unfinished businesses that were there, kind of bring them, hold them, carry them, integrate them into the system. And then we go back into every single area of life and build, like we create, who do I intend to be? What kind of thoughts do I want to create? What kind of emotions do I want to create? What kind of behaviors am I committed to? And then from there, we build goals and action plans in every single area of life to create, to be a co-creator of what life can bring. So that's in a nutshell about how the theory works. Now, when we do it in psychotherapy, obviously we work with someone to go deep inside and look at all these aspects, look at their dualities, and look at all the way that this has been affecting them in life, their core beliefs, heal them, and systematize. When we use it with children, obviously as children are growing up, the parents, the teachers are the one who are defining. So as the child talks, then we define for them, oh, this was your thought, this was interesting, or this is how you're feeling. Even with infants, like we say it, and then they start talking about it. Then you ask, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What are you doing? What is it really your intention? Is this something you wanted to do? Or if this is not what you wanted to do, what would you like to do to get there? And what are the thought process you have to gain? What are the emotions you have to feel in order to get there? So the containment of whatever happens, the naming of the emotion with thought process beside it, is something we then train the child, and then the child takes it and then starts living in that mode and moving forward, and they become completely kind of like aware, and they have a sense of agency, and because of that they become so much more responsible and accountable. And as if their motor skills and their cognitive development has reached a capacity that they can do something, then we allow them to do it and feel the agency and independence and the process of decision makings. And so you see children kind of grow up with the problem solving skills. Instead of us giving it to them, we keep defining and allowing them to create what they need to create in order to get where they want to get. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And that is so powerful, because so often parents don't want to see their child like make a mistake. So they're problem solving. And the answer is, that's why they problem solve for their children. And they don't understand the disservice that they're doing to their children by solving the problem for them.
Very much. I know that parents think that they have to teach everything to their children. And the point is that the children, and every one of us, have really learned from experience. So not allowing a child to experience the experience, we're taking that away from them. Even as simple as, if my muscles have the capacity to fix my bed, I need to have that type of responsibility about myself and my surrounding, that when I wake up, I can go fix my bed because I can.
Absolutely.
And that concept of, ooh, I can do this and see how I can do it, raises confident children for us. So it's that ability, the minute that you're developmentally are able to do as the parent teaches and then allows, doesn't do it for them anymore, teaches and then allows, and holds the child in a space that they love learning and they love experimenting because the skill is theirs. And the more that they learn to do this, the synapses get created for them to enjoy this next level of challenge, this next level of challenge. And they learn how to create these chemicals from internal sense. So when they learn to do this, they get bored less, and they go after drugs less, because as you know, most teenagers, they just lose interest.
Mhm.
And because they're bored, they're like, ooh, something shows up and it raises my dopamine, and ooh, let me take that. But when the child learns how to actually raise their dopamine by creating challenges for themselves and learning and growing and moving, that's what they do. They keep challenging themselves to learn more and more.
You for saying that. It's such valuable information, because so often parents, as something that I've seen too often and I have to keep stopping parents from doing. So you mentioned a child made the bed. Now, it's not perfect, but they did it. Parents will try to fix it, and I might be like, leave it alone. Like, how would you handle that? Because this is what I do. Would you suggest anything differently?
Absolutely. But imagine, like, when we're a grown up, how am I going to learn? Right? I have to do it myself. If I go to a new job, yes, I look and observe. My boss or somebody tells me what to do. They put it in front of me. I learn and observe. But I don't have anybody who would do it for me. I have to do it. And my belief is we raise our children for the society that we live in, right? That's what our job is. We're raising them for that. Well, if I raise my child as like, don't do anything, I'll do it for you. Well, when they're going out there, what am I going to follow them and do everything for them until they're dead, or I'm dead? Then even if I'm dead, then who's going to be there for them? And we have so many children in that realm that are afraid of becoming adult, because they become so dependent on their parents doing everything that they don't even know how to operate in the outside world. Now they're going to operate in the outside world the minute they go into a preschool or a school anyway. So the point is teaching them and having their own way of picking up cues, what to do, how to process these cues, how to make appropriate decision makings, because you're not going to be there for them all the time. So creating individuated children is so much to their benefit and the parents' benefit, because they have to learn how to create wise decision making when they're there. What a better idea that they make all of their mistakes while they are under the care of their parents, right? Versus you pamper them so much that then they go into the world and they don't make the right decisions. And by then, they're too old and have too high of an ego to come back and say, mommy and daddy, I screwed up. And even if they have to do that, their self-esteem is going to be shut down if they are old and they have to come back and say, all right, I made the mistake, mommy and daddy, now tell me, I'm 40 and I still don't know how to do it, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the consequences get worse. I'm just going to share a little bit of my story. So, my son is an adult, and I've always, he's always been very independent. But then at one point, you know, I, he rarely calls and asks me for help or whatever. And there are times in his life, though, that I prevented him from contacting consequences. And what I noticed, every time I stopped that process, the consequences got worse. And I had to say to myself, you tell parents, allow children to contact consequences so they can learn, but yet still, because it's hard, we tell them to do this thinking it's easy, but I'm here to share to you that it's not easy. But if we don't do the hard work, it's never going to get better.
Yes. And I've watched when parents have actually parented their children toward independence early on, it has much better effect when they're a teenager and they're adult. So you do the hard work early. And when you do that, you'll see how much easier it becomes as, things get harder for them in life. So you're absolutely right. I know it's a hard job for any parent to see a loved one suffer.
Mhm.
But the whole point is people learn out of suffering.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be suffering. It just needs to be that, yes, it just didn't work. This didn't work. The way I did it, it didn't work. Or the way, the world just, sometimes I'm the one who does something and it doesn't work and I need to get a consequence. Sometimes it's not me. If a natural disaster happens, it's not me. I didn't do anything. However, stuff happens and I have to learn how to handle it. So being with someone and allowing them to do it, and teach them and guide them, is very different than doing it for them. Two, if they do something that they actually have to experience the consequence, allowing them to experience the consequence, because that consequence teaches them something and you're taking away the lesson. Most of the time we learn from actual lessons. We don't learn from theoretical. So giving our children hours and hours of lecture is useless. But when they are doing it and falling and getting up again, and we're there like, good for you. Sorry you fell. Sorry it hurts. Get up. Let's do it. And then they do it again. And you're like, didn't work. I know. Let's do it again. And that's how they keep, growing in that, versus you're like, okay, I'm tired. I can't understand. I can't stand them hurting. I'm just going to do it for them.
Right. And then we take away that resilience from them, or that ability to build resilience, and then we're also telling them, oh, don't worry. If you fail twice, I'll always be there to do it for you. And they don't challenge themselves. They don't move forward. And that is tragic.
Yes. Another aspect of the awareness integration is also, first of all, the parents can go through this process themselves, right? And there's the self-help book that I got, Life Reset, which I had sent when we had talked about. This is a self-help book, which there's all of the processes in there for the parents to go through for themselves, to see the difference between their own thought process and emotions, and how they're handling their emotions, and how their emotions create a reaction, a body language, a tonality, and it creates an impact. And the more that you learn how to handle and contain your emotions, then you're regulated more. So in the daycare that I was talking to you about, Dr. Manukian was teaching the kids, and as young as like a 2-year-old, which they're supposed to have their tantrum, right? It was teaching them like, what's going on with you. And then she would tell obviously the emotions, and they have the chart, and which one do you feel, and they would name the emotion, and it's like, okay, well then concentrate, let's go in here and like breathe through it, and then now what are your thought process? So then they would say, well, I'm thinking this, and then after a while, it's like, okay, you're thinking this way. What did you want to do? Well, I wanted to get that doll. And mine, I wanted to get that doll. Well, the other person also wants the doll. So what are we going to do? So you talk to this about how to come up with a solution together, right? So after a while, now the kids have learned, and they have these like bean bags that are supposed to be safe places for them within the room. So whenever now they get kind of like upset and angry, they're like, they walk to the beanbag, they sit there, they kind of like go with it. And then it's like, now what do I want to do? And then they come back and say like, teacher, I want to do this now. And it's interesting that you can create this type of an emotional regulation, even for 2-year-olds.
Because we don't give children enough credit as to the skills that they can develop and the things that they can learn, because we think at 2, what do they know? They're not thinking. We don't give them that. When, often I tell parents, just leave your child alone and see what they do. Stop telling them what to do. Just watch them. They will amaze you.
They do. They are so smart. They pick up cues from you. So part of why I say, parents, you need to work on yourself first, is because it doesn't matter what comes out of your mouth in that way. They watch what you do. So I have parents who come to me and like, I cannot understand, why, do something about my child who's so angry. And then we talk about it, and she's angry and he's angry. I'm like, how am I going to do anything about him? or because he's living in your home where you're continuing to do the same pattern of behavior. So maybe I should teach the two of you first how to contain your anger, because if you're working with him and you're talking to him in that angry and with an angry voice, yelling and cussing at your child, telling them that they should stop yelling and cussing, sorry, it doesn't work. It's not a good role model.
Yeah.
Where are they supposed to learn? They're supposed to learn from you, but you're not offering them any other path for them to learn from you behaviorally. Again, parents have amazing way of giving lectures, but they're not catching on how much of their behavior is being duplicated. And if you want another behavior coming out of your children, guess who you have to change?
Exactly. It's just like saying, don't smoke, sweetheart. It's really bad for your health.
Or don't lie. Don't lie to me.
Exactly.
And they're consistently lying.
One of my favorite, I was in a classroom one day, and this is a preschool, and the teacher yelled because the children were all loud, and she yelled out, quiet. And I thought, you're yelling quiet. And she's like, what should I do? I said, just sit down and move your lips. And then the kids were like, Miss, we can't hear you. And then this again, there were 3-year-olds. And they looked around and told all the others, be quiet, I can't hear what Miss, Jane is saying. And they were like, wow, like that was so impactful. Instead of you expending your energy, show them, model for them what you want them to do, because they will do what you do.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So I think that it's important for parents to know you deserve to take care of yourself first, because if you are going to be teaching and being a role model to another human being, you got to kind of get what is it you're role modeling. And if you want your children to role model that way, then you got to do it. Another thing that I have a beef with, it's that people go find a mate and marry them and have a child from them, then they have an expectation that that child should not behave like the other mate.
Yeah.
Especially for people who are getting divorced. I don't want my child to behave like my husband or my wife. Too bad. You had to think about that when you chose the person to become your mate and have children from them, because genetically and behaviorally, they're going to. Yeah. Unless the two adults choose not to do that. So, but if we're talking about parents who are also not on the same path, they don't get aligned, and there's a lot out there, or single parents who are not living, obviously they've gotten divorced and the child is going from one to another, it's okay. At least even if they have one role model from one parent. So don't say, I don't have to change, the other one has to change. Do what you need to do for yourself. Do the right thing for yourself. Role model exactly what you want them to role model. And trust me, they will learn from you. And yes, they will learn other ways. But the society will also give feedback, where if the way that you are presenting and they're learning gets a better image from the society, then they'll start picking your way, because as they go to the society, that way that you taught them and it's going to get more approval from them. It will bring more positive feedback from them. So they will gravitate. So don't waste your time shutting down the other person or the other parent. Just do what you say you need to do and continue what you need to do, and teach them as a role model for that.
Wow, Foojan, thank you so much for saying that, because so often, even in the schools, I hear teachers say, well, if we do this at school, they don't do it at home. Well, I said it will matter, because they will learn. Or one parent saying exactly what you said. Well, when they're with dad, they're like this. And no, just keep doing what you do, because you can't change the other person. The only person you can change is you. So do that. And then your child will say, okay, what mom taught me, just like you said, is what serves me better. Or what dad taught me, whichever.
Based on what you said, it's so important. I've seen that so many times. People come to me with their child, and they're like, my child is behaving this way. And I'm like, where else do they behave that way? Nowhere. They are a model citizen at school. Oh, so they do have the skills. Somebody taught them those skills at school. Yes. So the minute they come to open the door and they come here, their behavior changes. Yes. Then guess whose behavior has to change at home before this child's behavior will change? Right? Because we know that the child is gaining the skill somewhere else and they are behaving that way somewhere else. I have so many parents, they're like, oh my God, my child is horrible at home. They go to the neighbor's home or they go to their, peers' family's home and they keep calling me and you're like, oh my God, you've raised such a wonderful child. They've been so polite. And then, he comes home and he's throwing everything and yelling at home. I'm like, guess what?
Yeah.
This is what your home allows.
Exactly.
And he knows nothing else outside this home will allow that. So interesting is you're allowing that to happen.
Absolutely. My goodness, I cannot think of a better way to end, because I want parents to understand this is not to put you down. This is to empower you. We're not saying anything that, it's like, oh, no, first of all, you don't know what you don't know. And this rich amount of information, I mean, you pack so much information into this one short session that to help parents. And that's what it's about, parents, to empower you to act and to do something differently.
Absolutely. I think that parents have a tough job. And I think that this era is the hardest era, because I think that it was easier before, where, our grandparents and even our parents was easier before because they had the upper hand. They knew things weren't changing as fast. Even if your grandparents will tell you something, is still applied to the world. Times are changing every 5 years. The technology is changing every 5 years. The things that our children know and they have to deal with, we never had to, and we don't even know how to. And it's so important to change those parenting styles that says, I'll tell you, versus I'm gonna learn with you, because there's no other way. We didn't have to deal all at the same time, having shootings, drugs, sexuality at such a young age, being pumped, with these phones, having access to every area of the world, which has also access to us as a child at every moment. So this type of, getting so much stimuli where parents have no control. By the time they want to go after one, app that the kids learned and control that, they've already on to 4 other apps, which parents have no idea what they are.
Exactly.
There is so much more importance in teaching our children how to be independent now more than any other time, because you cannot control everything, unfortunately.
Thank you. And please remember that. And Foojan, thank you so much for being here. Can we do this again?
Absolutely, anytime. I love you, Teresa. I hope everybody who's with us has enjoyed their time as much as I did with you. And anytime. Thank you for creating this environment.
Thank you. And I'll see you soon.